Let's share experiences or ask questions before we move on to the next.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Hey, Teresa.
Hey, Greg. That was really lovely. I just had probably more of an intellectual question. When we're working on the throat, is that processing? What's the significance?
You're kind of pulling everything together so that the mind can process it. You're also tying in like the potential for higher creativity, so for like a flow of creative processes.
Okay, cool.
Is that what's happening to you? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
somebody here was saying like that's what was happening to her was higher creativity.
Yeah, there was like a thread or a piece that needed to be like pulled in, processed out, and the higher creativity just expanding. Cool.
Like if you look at like doing the body awareness, you're stimulating the potential, like a greater potential for intuition, because you're putting your awareness on something where you're feeling like tightness or agitation, which would eventually affect instinctive responses and then emotions and then the mind. And you're sitting and you're being present with it. You're training the mind to be in more an intuitive state just by observing something. And you're training yourself to allow something to be so that it doesn't control you anymore. And then you kind of like have engaged that process. And then you move to the throat, where then it starts to engage like the higher creativity component.
Great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're so.
And go ahead, Robert and Linda.
Hey, Greg.
Good
Morning. When you, as we went into this break, you asked how we felt about the situations and to look at them. And there's sort of three different situations I've like really active at the moment. And I feel bored by them.
Bored? Yeah, that's a great sign.
Yeah.
Like
I
all
was
the
like,
drama's gone.
exactly. It's like I didn't even know there was drama there.
Right.
So thank
Yeah,
you
there's
for
always,
that.
even like a deadline has some drama to it. You know what I mean? Like a deadline, a goal, like I don't know, even the excitement that we have, like a positive is still a little bit of drama, where
Yes. Yeah, I
just
can see
moving
that.
forward and doing stuff, it's just like,
Right. Yeah, it's like, okay, so
yeah,
what's next is sort of
yeah,
the outcome of it.
right.
I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
And go ahead, Linda.
Hey, Linda.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good, things are good. Um, Curious, as we're doing it today with the frankincense, I've been working the three brains with the previous practices. One of them we're using Artemisia and
Sure.
hyssop and Crisium, and then the other one we're doing the Shibumi and the alignment. And kind of like exploring like what am I sensing that's different about the frankincense, and so my my intuitive thing as we're doing the practice is there's something about the frankincense that agitates everything first and then there's a calm. Like when I do the shibumi and the alignment, I don't feel agitation. I just go mellow
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
So I just then of course my intellect got involved and said, well, just ask him what's the deal with the
Yeah,
frankincense.
like you're purifying things to a certain extent, but you're also, because whenever we tap into the intuitive mind, you're kind of making like a path for soul energy or soul guidance to come in. And so the frankincense or the fir kind of prepare the pathway for that to kind of happen. And so it could be that things get cleaned up a little bit, like you said, before like the mind with a big M starts to sink in. And like when that does happen, like everything just starts calming down. like
Mhm.
everything calms down. And so, you know, we'll be visiting the Shibumi and the alignment and everything a little bit later in some of the other processes, you know, where they're a little bit more integrative. But you know, when we first started doing this, you know, we did the piece like we just did, and then we did the part where we're balancing. And you know, at first I was saying, oh, we're just getting used to it. And so some of the oils that we used were more about getting used to it and getting things activated. Like the mugwort and artemisia are really about kind of stimulating those processes to make it easier. And so that's all good, but like afterwards I started thinking it out, like I didn't want to make it seem like what we just did or the balancing of the three is something you just do in the beginning and then you don't do it anymore. For even advanced versions of this practice, you still do those things that we did in the very beginning, where okay, we're just checking in with the three centers, and now we're trying to balance the three centers. Even though we might be doing other processes involving the three brains, those things still produce something. And later we're going to be using them in therapeutic strategies to produce a certain result, be it that we're treating something physically or psychologically. So here this weekend we're laying the groundwork for like the building blocks for something, but later we're going to be using these processes as we talk about like how to treat a particular condition. We're going to pull upon the things that we know from three brains and say like, okay, this is going to be the thing that helps to resolve the symptom, right? But you would partner it with this three brain component to produce a much deeper result, like harnessing these aspects of the instinct, the emotions, and the mind. And so I like what you're doing, where you're going, okay, but what is the difference? The frankincense and the fir have a little bit more of a cleansing and fortifying effect on the mechanisms, where the mugwort was more about just activating the centers, opening up the centers and making it easier for the process itself. But once you do it, we want to take it to the next step. So this would be a bit of the next step. Doesn't mean you couldn't visit the mugwort thing again. I still do it from time to time. But here we're going at it with wanting a very specific result. Yeah.
That makes sense. And the mugwort, you know, is a whole new experience from last weekend.
Mhm.
And, you know, using it, like you were saying, to open and activate things before we do the colors, right?
Yes,
And so
exactly.
that makes sense that when we were first starting this, that's
Yeah.
where we would start with the mugwort.
Yeah.
And now we move on. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Good experiences.
Yeah.
When working with the sex chakra this time around, I had feelings and images of being sexually harassed on the street. It hasn't fully moved through. Any thoughts on how to keep it moving out?
The things that we'll be doing the rest of the day and tomorrow. Like, yeah, like this is, I want us to be able to observe what is happening in each of these processes so that we know like, this is what I go to when I need to resolve something. And so, you know, like you said, you have the memory of something from the past, but let's see what happens as we go through the other processes.
And go ahead, Lara.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Greg. The frankincense and fir you said are cleansing and fortifying. Is one, I guess I'm trying to figure out, do you use one oil versus another at different times for any reason? Or are they pretty equal?
For this, no, I would say either one. Like if you have like a favorite one to go to, I tend to use frankincense more for this than fir, but I have used fir and I liked it. Like you know, you know, the fir is a little bit more activating to the heart. The frankincense is going to have a bigger impact on the mind. And so if you wanted a little bit more something heart-centered, you can work the fur a little bit more. But honestly, like when I've done both, you know, the plant is a bit different, but at the same time, I have very similar reactions or responses. And so either one will work.
Thanks.
Like if you have a predisposition where like, this type of fur is my jam, then I'd say do it. Like if frankincense really kind of is one that you feel very drawn to, then I'd just work the frankincense.
Drop the bottle, check.
Yeah.
I love how quiet and still everything gets with this work.
Yeah. It gets very quiet, very still. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What I really notice is I have a lot of activity, a lot of thoughts, a lot of creative thoughts and planning, but my body feels very still, very relaxed.
So somebody here was sharing that, like, as they did this process, she has a lot of thoughts and a lot of movement and a lot of processing, but her body is very, very calm. Where usually it's the opposite. You know, the body can be agitated, and even if you're processing things, like sometimes the body will get more stirred or more agitated. It's kind of sometimes the nature of processing. But if you can get it in the intuitive state, everything kind of just goes calm and quiet as you kind of go through and process things. So,
And Donita, you were unmuted. Did you mean to be?
hey, Miss Donita.
And just the explanation about fur versus frankincense was very helpful. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Yeah.